Hey everyone, so today I wanted to share about how we got citizenship on IberAmerican pathway. So it wasn't me that got the citizenship, but it was my husband. I'm just going to try to slowly and methodically go through everything that we did. To start with, I have documented most of our experience on my website, the Burgos Experience. And if you will go to the homepage, you see here, this picture right here, where it says from the NLV in Spain to citizenship via the Ibero-American pathway. That's going to give you a whole lot of details about how we came to Spain from Mexico on the non-lucrative visa, what our income source was, all the information that we had to provide to the Mexican consulate for our NLV in Spain. So that was almost 4 years ago. I have a couple of days from now before it's going to be 4 years, okay? At the beginning, you'll find the different documentations that we got for the NLVs. But this is not going to be about the NLV. The NLV requirements, since we moved here, have changed. They have a completely different system that they're doing. So I don't know even how our situation back then compares to the documentation that you need now. So I'm not going to get into it. You can read that if you want to. Moving on to citizenship in Spain. So 6 months prior to our 2-year anniversary, we consulted with an attorney who we found recommended on Facebook. This is the documentation that she said that we needed for the kids. Okay, there was no difference in the adult submission except for that I would have to sign for them. Okay, so they needed their birth certificates. One of my kids at the time had American citizenship and Honduran citizenship, and so he was going to have to show both of his citizenships. Okay, they do qualify for the Ibero-American pathway, but we ended up deciding to just do the poor option. On the application form, they only have room for 2 passports. So my other child, who was born in Mexico and has birthright American and Honduran citizenship, since he only had to show 2, she told us to just show the Honduran and Mexican passports, okay? So we didn't even talk about the American one for him. There's only 2 places to fill in for citizenships if you have other citizenships. Okay. That being said, let's see what else. At the 2 year and 1 day mark, he is when he submitted his citizenship application. So you can submit for citizenship 2 years and 1 day after you move to Spain on legal residency. That could be the DNV, that could be a work visa, that could be the NLV. That's the digital nomad visa or a work visa or the non-lucrative visa. It cannot be an estancia, which is a student visa. It cannot be that, a stay. It has to be actual residency, and you have to keep it legal, and you have to meet specific requirements the whole time. You have to take a test or 2, depending on your country, and you also have to provide various pieces of documentation, okay? Birth certificates, criminal background checks, stuff like that. Okay, so everyone wants to know, how long does it take? It took him 11 and a half months. I think this is average. There are many people who are getting approved right now in 4 to 6 months, but I think a year is pretty much average. We received the litoral in the email, and then he went and did his jura, or his swearing in, with a notary, which we paid around $300 for. You also have to make sure that you're able to and that you plan to keep your NLV renewed in status. Your residency has to stay in status. Okay, you have to have proof of current legal status whenever you go to get your DNI and your Spanish passport after you're approved for citizenship. So you have to continue to meet the renewal requirements for your residency card. And there are restrictions on traveling and how long you can leave. In our consultation, the attorney told us to not go anywhere for more than 3 months at a time, and that we really didn't need to leave at all for more than a total of 3 months over the 2-year period. I know that there's some debate out there about how long you can travel for and how long you can be gone for. This was our situation. This is what we were told. This is what we did, and he got approved. Okay, so we did not leave for more than a total of 3 months during that 2-year period. And we did not even find out that that was a potential requirement until 6 months in advance. So it had been 1.5 years that we had lived here. Oh, and I should mention, they look at your stamps. So she said not to leave the EU. She said not to leave the EU for more than 3 months at a time. So all the traveling that we did within the Schengen zone did not count What counted was the travel that was done outside of the Schengen zone. Okay. So she told us not to travel for more than a total of 3 months outside of the Schengen zone. So we only had like 2 weeks of time outside of the Schengen zone, and that was in the UK. And he had no problem getting approved. After 4 months after he did the swearing in, we had not received the birth certificate in the email. We had not received the litoral. So we were told by someone online who sent me an email and said, hey, you can email them and ask them to check on it. We sent multiple emails and we eventually heard back from someone, and they responded back with the birth certificate attached to the email, I believe it was. And so from there, we realized that his birth certificate, that the name was incorrect. They were supposed to switch his last names. So in Spain, when you become a citizen, you have to take your father's, your paternal last name and your maternal last name. And so it doesn't matter what your legal last name is at the time in your birth country, you have to follow the law. So that's your dad's last name and your mom's birth last name. But what you can do if you don't want that is you can have them switched. So you can have your last names be the maternal last name and then the paternal last name. So that's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to have his paternal dad's last name first. He wanted to have it last because in this country, even though you have the two last names, people mostly refer to you by your first name and your first last name. Okay, so he just wanted to be called what he's always been called his whole life. And in order to do that, he needed to put his mom's first last name in his first last name. If you're not Hispanic and you don't have two last names from two different parents, you might not understand my terminology, but this is how everybody is named in most of Latin America. Okay, so when he had filled out the paperwork to have his last names switched, to have his mom's last name first and then his dad's. But when we got the birth certificate in the mail, it had not been done. It was incorrect. So we responded back in the email. Eventually, it was fixed, and I talk about all of that here. And so it was fixed. Within a few weeks, we had the corrected litoral in the email. He took that he went to the DNI office. He made an appointment. I want to say he made it there, but maybe he made it online. We walk in, you take a number. This is in Zaragoza, okay? You walk in, you take a number, and you sit and wait, and then you're there with all your documentation that they tell you to have on the appointment page, and you've got to have some cash, okay, from the ATM. This was the cost for it was around 30 euros for the DNI and the passport. So very affordable. And we sat there and they made the DNI and they made the passport right in front of us. And then they gave it to him and we were done. He did have to get some pictures taken in advance, but okay. So right here, I'm telling you that from the time that he submitted his information, April 14th until mid-September, so 1 year and 5 months for the total for the approval and the swearing in and to be documented. So those are the steps. You first have to be approved, then you have to swear in, then you have to get your documentation, and there can be a lot of time in between each of those steps. So approval might take 1 year, approval might take 4 months, but then you have to wait for your swearing in appointment. And if you don't go to a notario for your swearing in that you have to pay for, then you want to go and do it for free at the registro. That's fine, but you have to do it on their timeline and it could be 6 months out. So you go 6 months out, and usually, from what I've read online, that same day they send you your litoral and your email, and then you follow up by going and making your appointments to get your DNI and your passport. The problem is that you don't know when it's going to be done, and until you have this in your hand, you need your residency card to stay valid. So then you have this whole other thing where you're dealing with immigration and trying to stay up to date with them and keeping everything in place. And it's just very stressful. So we tried to take a hold of it and tried to control the timeline a little bit by doing the swearing in at a notario. We were able to do that in 1 week after the approval. And then the wait time came in on waiting for the birth certificate to come through, which that was, like I said, from April to August, April, May, June, July, August. So 4 months for the incorrect birth certificate, and then about another month to get the correct birth certificate, and then to get the documentation. Okay, here I'm showing you the things that he needed, okay? Both passports. So if you have up to 2 citizenships, when you apply for Spanish citizenship, you have to report both of them. So what did he have? He had Mexican and Honduran citizenship, okay? As I said before, I have a child who we also got a consultation for, and he had 3 citizenships. That was in addition to Mexico and Honduras. He has American citizenship, and the attorney said, nope, you don't need the third one. And she said, don't worry about this one. So his birth country was what he was going to use, and his other birthright country. But we decided not to do that for the kids. And so my husband submitted copies of both of his passports at that time. We had to do the criminal record certificate from both countries, from both passport countries. He had to have his birth certificate apostilled from both passport countries. He had to take the culture test. If you're not from a Spanish speaking country, you have to take the language test as well. He had to submit an original and copy of his valid TIE, which is your immigration card. That's what the T stands for, tarjeta. And we had to submit birth certificates for both of the kids, apostilled. If they're not from Spanish speaking countries, then you're going to have to also have those translated. But we got the birth certificates from Honduras and from Mexico, so it was no problem. Nothing had to be translated. You submit your children's information with the parents' information so that after the parent gets approved, the kids can then come in under them with the por opción, or by option, process and get citizenship through their now Spanish citizen parent. But in our case, we had a choice because our kids also qualify for the IberAmerican pathway, but we chose to do it this way because we didn't want to pay for the attorney. Now, you don't have to pay an attorney to do this. You can do it on your own. Let me show you the application. This is the application for getting Spanish nationality by residencia. Okay. And on this form, you can see you have to fill it out. You have to, you go through all of this, you fill out all this information in duplicate. Probably, I'm guessing that one of these is for one of these is for the administration, and then another one is going to be for the person who's applying. And this is normal. This is what they do here. Instead of you printing it and filling out one form and making many copies, you fill out the same form 3 times, and you keep one of the papers, you give one of the papers, and they do something else with another one. That's the same is true for the residency visas. Okay, so then we have more information here that you're filling out, on and on and on, okay? You want to make sure that you always mark that you want to receive notifications. This is also for your residency card, because if you don't, then you'll be waiting for the mail to come instead of just getting it in your email. So you can get notifications on your email right away if you mark that. And you also have to do that for residency. So always make sure that you say that you want to receive electronic notifications. Okay. Otherwise, you will not get them. All right. So now, oh my gosh, you see what I mean? It's just so much that you have to do. And we could not afford to make a mistake. We could not afford to make a mistake. If my husband would have lost residency at any time here, his choice would have been to return to Mexico or to Honduras, because as I've said, even though I'm an American citizen and my kids are American citizens, my husband is not. He does not have legal status there. He never had legal status there, so he cannot return there. Yes, he did live there, but he cannot return there for at least 10 years. So it was very important to us that we kept the residency valid and up to date, and that he always qualified for the citizenship, and that we didn't mess it up because we didn't want to take a risk of not getting it, okay, or having it take longer or whatever, because the NLV process is very stressful. If at any moment you lose your passive income, you could lose your residency. So we didn't want to take that chance. Okay, so now I'm going to show you down here at the bottom. It's telling you, oh, these are the rules, right? Okay, so here we go. This is everything that you have to do. These are the directions for filling out the form. It's telling you every what to put in each spot. Okay, what to put in box number 2, what to put in box number 3, what to put in box number 4, on and on and on. I know you're going to ask me, so I'll put a link to this in the description. And in exchange for that, please subscribe, like, and comment a little thank you, okay? Gracias, mil gracias, muchas gracias, thank you very much. Any of that works, okay? Let's see what else. Now, the documentation, required documentation. Okay, so it says that all of this stuff has to accompany this form if you are someone who is of age, which means you're not a minor. You have to have the modelo de solicitud, which is the form, this form. You have to have your pasaporte, your complete passport that is valid from your country of origin. Anyhow, so then you have to have the your birth certificate translated and apostilled. You have to have your certificado de antecedentes penales. That is your background check, translated and apostilled or legalized. You have to pay the tasa, and you have to possibly, depending on your situation, take the language test and it has to be a specific language test from a specific place. And then now we're going to go to the minors who are 14 years of age. These are your new sets of requirements. Let's see, you have to have the form filled out by the parents or the legal representative. You have to have your residencia, your school information. Okay, so this is where being in school comes in. You have to be in school. You have to prove that you're in school to get citizenship. You have to prove that you're in school to get to NLV. Lots of people talk about homeschooling here. I tried it. I have a ton of information about education here and about homeschooling here. You cannot homeschool and get citizenship. You cannot homeschool and keep your NLV up to date. Some people are getting by with homeschooling, I think, on the DNV, the Digital Nomad Visa. But this is another topic that I'm not going to get into right now because I've already done it extensively, and that's not the point of the video. But this is proof, okay, that you need to show that you have been integrated and that obligatorio en el caso de niños en edad escolar. Okay, so if they're of age, they have to be in school. This is obligatory if they're school age, that you have a certificado de centro de formación. Okay, you have to show that they are in school, and then you also have to show the identification of the parents or their legal representative. This is for everyone who is 14 years and younger, because here we have, if you're over 14 but under 18 and you're not emancipated, okay, and now you have another set of requirements, okay, all of this. Then you go down to if you're a refugee. Then you go down to, oh, you know what? I don't even know what that means. What's the oportunidad la foco? I don't know what optar means. No, I have some Spanish, but apparently not enough. Okay, so anyhow, now if you're married to a Spaniard and you want to get citizenship, what you can do after you've been married to a Spanish person, um, for 1 year, you can qualify for Spanish citizenship. This means that if you marry the Spanish person and they're already Spanish when you get married, or if they become Spanish after you get married, you do have to live in Spain for 1 year. You have to have legal residency for 1 year. You have to come in here and you have to do the residency thing and have all of that. I already have it. I've already had legal residency. I still have legal residency. I've now been married to a Spanish person for almost a year. And then, so this would be my situation if after 1 year of him being a citizen, I wanted to get citizenship. So I would need the birth certificate of my husband, and I would need my marriage certificate. It says from Spain, which means that I have to have that registered. Okay, so right now I don't have it registered. So when I finally do go get it registered, it's going to be about probably at least another year before I get the document back. So I've been told that once you go to register your marriage, you have to wait 1 year or more to get your Spanish marriage certificate, which does not surprise me at all because that's the same thing that we were told by the registro when we went and registered our kids' births here for their Spanish citizenship. Okay, so I'm not surprised. So what that does, if you're in a situation like me, is that it makes it so that you have to wait even longer to become a citizen. If you're already married to someone who was born in Spain and is a Spanish citizen and you happen to be outside of the country, this is one of the reasons that they tell you to go ahead and go to the consulate and register your marriage so that you don't have to do that when you get here. And then they want you to have your padrón. This right here is something that says that you live together. And I don't know if that's for people who have pareja de hecho. You have to have your padrón. proving that you've been living for at least 1 year with the Spanish citizen that you're married to. Okay, this means widow, viudo or viuda. So this is if you are widowed from a Spanish citizen. This is for descendants, so that's the children, I believe. This is the birth certificate of the mother or father, and the birth certificate of the grandparents if you are getting them from your grandparents. I know some of you guys have done that. This is for the Sephardi Jews. And then there are other documents that you could have to prove. You could have to show. And here is the school proof that you went, that an ESO, which this is basically middle school and the beginning of high school or higher in Spain, and your foreign card, your card for your residency card, or your EU residency card. Okay, so yes, you have to have valid residency, and you have to have proof that you are enrolled, your kids are enrolled in school if they're school age, and they do not allow online schooling here. Okay, man, and that question comes up so much on Facebook. It's just like, wow, it's like a broken record all the time. Okay, so this is the form for citizenship, and all of that is why we decided to use an attorney. So bam, we used an attorney, and now we had to prove that we paid the tasa, and it cost 104.05. So this is the cost of applying for citizenship, and then we also paid the attorney. That was around 1,000 euros or $1,000, a little bit less than 1,000 euros. What else? Usually people want to know, what did I do? I'm not planning on becoming a Spanish citizen. Right now, I'm focusing on getting my driver's license, my Spanish driver's license. That's my next project. I did change my residency card though. So I could have waited until my NLV expired, which is going to be next year. And maybe I could have done larga duración after that. But anyways, you know what? I decided I don't really care about that stuff, and I wanted to get something done right away that would give me work permission. Because one day, maybe I'm going to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and maybe I'm going to have 4,000 hours of view time, and then maybe I'll be able to monetize this channel. And if that happens, people, I want to be able to make the money, and I can't do that or I can't do it. I don't know. Can I do it? I don't know, but I would feel more comfortable doing it if I had a work permit. So I wanted to go ahead and just not have to worry about that. So, or, maybe somebody asked me to teach them English. I don't know. Anyway, this just basically gives me freedom, right? Like for so many years and living in Mexico, living here, I haven't had the freedom to earn income in the country that I was in. So I can do that now because I went and got this. So hang on. There have in the past been two processes that you could do. One was to go through the spouse of a EU citizen. The other one was to say that you were the spouse of a Spanish citizen. Obviously, if you are the spouse of a Spanish citizen, you are also the spouse of an EU citizen. However, as of this summer, or May, is that the summer? I don't know. As of May of this year, they're changing it so that if you're married to a Spanish citizen, you cannot do the EU citizen pathway. Okay, you have to do the Spanish citizen pathway. That's as of May of this year. Now, some regions have gone ahead and put that into effect. One of those regions who's went ahead and started doing that is Aragon. And so because of that, I had to do this residencia temporal, and it's called Arriago Familiar, and it's por circunstancias excepcionales. So that is to get temporary residency through family roots because of exceptional circumstances, which was my situation. They will tell you if you are the spouse of a Spanish citizen, you will do this process by filling out the EX10 form. So it will tell you here, I'm going to switch it into English I think most of the people are going to be interested in this, probably from the United States. Might be wanting to see this in English. It is a temporary residency permit that who can get it? The parent or guardian of a Spanish minor, or the spouse or accredited common law partner of a Spanish citizen, or any of these other people. These are descendants, ascendants, etc. Or the children of a father or mother who was originally Spanish. This is the law of what, the actual law. You want to read the actual law. This is where you go, and that's what you click on. Okay, the requirements. This is what we want to know, right? Requirement number 1, you cannot be a citizen of the EU. You have no criminal record in Spain or in the previous 5 years of any other country. You're not prohibited from entering Spain. You haven't made a commitment not to enter Spain because you've done something. You are the father or mother or guardian of a Spanish minor, or you provide support for a Spanish person with a disability, or you are a spouse or common law partner, or a grandchild or grandparent, or let's see what else it says, a dependent descendant under 21 years of age or over 21 years of age of a Spanish citizen, or their spouse or common law partner. So if you can figure out what all that means, maybe you also can qualify. I think it's like the spouse of a 21-year-old or younger who is the child of a Spanish citizen. That's a little complicated. Or to be the father or mother of someone who is originally Spanish. Okay, so I was in, and I think most anyone who's watching this is probably going to be in the spouse of a Spanish citizen or common law partner of a Spanish citizen. Okay, required documentation. Here is the form that I had to fill out. Let's see, can I open this in a new tab? Application form called the EX10, and you come over here to all the forms. Oh man, you're going to love this when you get here, okay? Go out to all the forms. This is the form that I did. And once again, here you go. This is your information. This is the Spanish family member's information. This is the person filling out the form. If it's not the person who's number 1, then you're going to put your information here if you're like a representative or you're filling it out for your kids. Same thing with the NLV. This form is very similar to that. It has the same there. Again, you want to get notified. Right here, you want to make sure that you click that I consent to receive electronic notifications so that you can receive your notifications through Mercurio and get them through email instead of having to wait for them to come through the snail mail. And then you sign it, and then you go through the labor of figuring out what in the world do I click here. I'm trying to remember. It's probably Arriago Familiar, without looking back at my form, which thank goodness I do still have it because I save everything. And then, of course, as usual, you have the directions here. Okay, this is what you put in box number 1. This is what you put in box number 2. This is what you put in box number 3. This means single, married, widowed, divorced, separated. Okay, in that order, SCVDS. And you can go and click on this stuff. But anyways, this is the form that I had to fill out. And then I submitted a copy of my full passport. I got my criminal record certificate from my countries I reside in the last 5 years. So that was just Spain, which that was, it's easy to get that online here. And then I did the Mexico one, which is also easy to get online. And then you can see here that there's other requirements if you're a different type of person than what I am. And then I had to prove that we have a family relationship. I submitted my padrón, and I submitted the bank ownership page. I submitted the birth certificate of my oldest child because it has my maiden name and my married name on it. Our apostilled marriage certificate from Honduras because we have our marriage registered there. And then my husband's DNI. And that's it, okay? At first, I was denied they were confused. They didn't know that I already had the NLV. So there was some things that happened there with confusion. I had to clarify that I already had legal residency. Usually people who do this process don't have legal residency. They come into the country on a tourist visa and then they do the process. And so that's why there was confusion with me. But anyhow, I'm going to show you over here on Instagram. This is my Instagram, okay? And right here you have highlights. And normally if I talk about a topic in my stories, I put it in my highlights. So you can come and you can see right here, I have my Spanish residency. And is it going to load? Yes. And here you go. I have everything here. You click, and you can get my whole story here of everything. Okay. And I have that set up like that for every topic. And so I talk about all of it there, all the different things. Our immigration in the United States, the driving test that I'm doing, YouTube videos, everything, schools, the neurodiversity in Spain. I mean, I have everything here. Okay. So anything I talk about in my stories that's topical or a hot topic or a frequently asked question, I put here in my highlights. So if you want the full picture of living in Spain and all the things that have happened and just like our perspective, you have to subscribe on YouTube, follow me on Instagram because a lot of missing pieces will come through there. And also for lots and lots and lots of details on many different things, you can look at my website. I have information about renting in Spain, things that we did to help our kids in Spanish schools. If you're interested in a video about Spanish schools, I have a lot to say about that. You can let me know in the comments. And yeah, I mean, I think that that's it. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I set out to cover in this video. So I've told you about the passports and the Spanish passport. And, you know, one of the things when we left the US that I wanted to do for my kids was to get them as many passports as possible. And so hopefully by the end of this year, they're going to have their Spanish passport and they will have, one of them will have 3 citizenships and the other one will have 4 citizenships. And my husband now has 3. And I'm saying that because Spain does not make you give up your citizenships. They don't make you give up your other citizenships. They just don't recognize your other citizenships, which is completely different than giving them up. Renouncing them is just saying, yeah, I'm a Spanish citizen. I'm not this, that, and the other thing when I'm in Spain. But when you're in your other home country, when you're here, or you're here, or you're here, those countries are still going to see you as a Mexican, or as a Honduran, or as a United Statesian, not as a Spaniard or not as a Spanish person, a Spanish citizen. So anything else, let me know. But for now, that's going to be it. And once again, I need you to like my videos, comment, and subscribe, okay?